everyone, and special greetings to my communication studies class. My name is Maria Banks, and I am here to explain the fundamental research behind social judgment theory. I titled my research, Social Judgment Theory, the Power of Persuasion. Simply put, social judgment theory seeks to predict, measure, and analyze why and how people process the information to make the decisions that they do. One of the many factors that scholars seek to measure is the environment in which the individual is surrounded. So, what better place to present my presentation is in the classroom building. The classroom is one of the first influential environments that a person can encounter. Children at a young age take what they learn from their parents, and when they come into the classroom, they are pulled together with other kids who have also learned what they have received from their parents to come together to make one unique environment. So, without further delay, I'm going to present to you the research behind social judgment theory. Okay, so I'm doing this in two parts. First, we're going to go through the theoretical perspective, the general consensus, the things that the scholars agree on, and then the dividing methodologies. What is it about social judgment theory that divides the scholars in their research? Then I will go through the biblical perspective. What does the Bible say about how we make our decisions, what influences us, and what God's plans for us in our lives? So, social judgment, what does it mean? Well, it was first developed by Muzafer Sherif, and according to Mallard, 2010, social judgment theory attempts to explain how likely a person might be to change their opinion, the probable directions of that change, their tolerance towards the opinion of others, and their level of commitment to their position. According to the research by Littlejohn and Foss in 2011, they say the theory focuses on how we make judgments about statements that we hear and tries to predict how you will judge a friend's message and how this judgment will affect your own belief system. Okay, so the general consensus. Most scholars, when they study social judgment, agree on two things: the ego involvement and the latitudes of acceptance, rejection, and non-commitment. The ego involvement simply is, it defines an individual's personal relevance of an issue. A highly involved egotistical person will be harder to convince. Basically, the more you know about a subject, the more you are involved in the subject, the less it will be easier for somebody to try to convince you otherwise if they are not on the same level as you are. Then we get to the latitude of acceptance. That means that if a view is presented to them that's closely related to their own, that means they will accept it. The rejection factor is a person will reject a view if it is far from their own views. And then we have non-commitment. A person would neither accept nor reject a view. What does that mean? Who are you most likely to believe? If a 4-year-old comes to you and says something and you think that it doesn't make any sense, well, maybe a 4-year-old might not be able to articulate what he was trying to say, so you're wondering, what are you talking about? But if an adult comes to you with that same message and tells you in a more clearer way where you can understand, then you might be more prone to believe and accept what he is saying. So, the dividing methodologies. What is it about social judgment theory that causes the scholars to come to a divide? Well, we have, most scholars take social judgment, the basic foundations of like the ego involvement and the latitudes of acceptance, rejection, and non-commitment. But when they take those foundations, they take it and they add their own theories and methodologies to it to say, well, I'm going to take the theories behind social judgment and go beyond what it seeks to measure and add. So the first one is the dual process models. This was researched by Parks, and it was developed by Petty and Capio. Okay, so when they take the dual process models, they take the theories such as the elaboration likelihood model and the heuristic systematic model, and that they say that high involvement motivates one to be more attuned to persuasive messages and to process the content of the message more accurately. That means the elaboration likelihood model says that if it seeks to explain different ways in which you evaluate the information and you receive. This was developed by Littlejohn and Fox. Some scholars believe that the elaboration theory serves as a guideline to determine how a person receives, interprets, and responds to messages. Then we have the impression formation, which was developed by Schur and Bernstein in 1985. This is earlier research when social judgment theory was just coming into fruition. Well, an impression formation is based on three processes: comprehension, integration, and abstraction. First is comprehension. It is the interpretation of stimulus information. Integration. It means the linking of several traits into a unified description of a person. Abstraction. Abstraction is based on pure judgment. Pure judgment is what you already have in your mind, the theories and the concepts that are developed in your mind before another impressionist come to you to make you make a decision based on what you've already known. So basically, social judgment takes what you've already known and how you take the messages of others to process it, what you've already known, to make a decision on how you want to proceed with that message. Which brings me to my next point, the attitude. Your attitude is your belief that you already have within you. And it is an approach to social judgment presented by McLaughlin and Sharman in 1972. Again, earlier research when social judgment theory was in its earlier stages of development. And even then, they all decided that the attitude is the basic concept of what makes you determine what you already decided you're going to do. So, attitude is defined in terms of the range of positions on a social issue which an individual accepts or rejects. So if I come to you with something, with a theory or an idea, you're going to take it based on what you already know. That goes back to the ego involvement. How much do you know about this theory to say that you can convince me to change my mind or agree with what you're trying to say? And then we get to the implicit theories. This was developed by McCullough in 2000. Impression theory describes the impressions individuals have already formed about another individual. Again, social judgment is based on the attitudes of what you already have in your mind, the processes that you've already formed, so that when others come to you with another theory or idea, then you can take what you know and what they have told you so that you can make an informed decision. And the implicit theories developed by McConnell goes beyond the impression formation. The impression formation, like I said earlier, is what somebody comes to you with based on what you've already have, and you take what they're telling you and add it to your own thoughts and theories. And it's based on the online and memory-based continuum. And also we have source credibility. Source credibility simply states how credible do you think the source is that the person is presenting to you, or how credible do you think the person is that's presenting you the source. Which brings me to the biblical perspective. Credibility sources. The nature of man. Matthew 12:34, for out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. So whatever is already in you is going to come out. So whatever's in your heart and in your mind, it comes out. Then we have God's plan. But see, God wants you to take your attitude and focus it on His. Hebrews 13:9, be not carried away with diverse and strange doctrines. 1 John 4:1, believe not every spirit, but try the spirit whether they are of God. So when it comes to source credibility, we have to take what we already know and charge it to what God's plan is saying to figure out if this is what God wants. Then he said trust Him. So, source credibility. We have to trust God's plan. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all their heart and lean not to their own understanding. In all their ways acknowledge Him and He shall direct our path. So if we take God's plan and what He has for us, and then when we have His word embedded in our hearts and in our minds, when other people come to you with other ideas and methodologies, you can take it, apply it to the word, and there you have social judgment theory. Thank you. Good night.